Happy Thursday, October 19th, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. We're going to be walking you through the next couple of weeks of weather and also looking ahead to November as well, and your tropical weather update in today's forecast. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, especially if you are looking for detailed weather breakdowns across North America and the tropics. You get that all here on this channel. And everybody, be sure to press the thumbs up button down below. Definitely helps out more than you know. Looking ahead first, let's look at your tropical weather update because we are seeing the tropical season start to slow down a little bit, but it is very active. So let's look first at climatology for the Eastern Pacific Basin. And you see we're already into late October, approaching early November, and we're already on the downhill climb for this in the Eastern Pacific Basin as it starts to wrap up the tropical weather season there, and in the Atlantic Basin as well. We are starting to drop down the ladder back in towards the end of hurricane season, and you can see we're already down very far there into early November. So we do have a little bit to talk about here. We are keeping an eye on a hurricane actually into the Eastern Pacific Basin and also a tropical storm in the Atlantic Basin. Let's start in the Eastern Pacific here, looking at Hurricane Norma. This is actually just to the west of the Mexican coast here, and you can see this is going to continue to press northward over the next few days through this weekend as a hurricane as it approaches the southern Baja of California, and then it's going to make that right-hand turn into western Mexico as a tropical storm and be a fairly heavy rainfall producer as it does so in towards early next week. So let's track that here today. You can see fairly defined hurricane, 992 millibar low or around that as we go into this afternoon and this evening. Outer rain bands getting very close there to the coastline of western Mexico. Then as we go into this weekend, Saturday night, and into Sunday there on the 21st and 22nd of October, we're going to start to see more of the outer rain bands approaching the southern Baja of California and western Mexico, bringing some very heavy rain, some rough surf, and some strong winds with it as we go into this weekend. Looking at the rainfall totals here, if you see the reds, the yellows, that's rainfall that could be up to near double digits. Yes, double digits, 10, 12 inches in some areas into the far southern area there of the Baja of California, far western Mexico. There could be some significant flash flooding down in these areas as we go in toward the early and middle portion of next week with all the runoff from the rainfall. But now we look over to the Atlantic side, and it's still busy here as well. We got Tropical Storm Tammy just to the east of the Leeward Islands, and it is getting fairly organized over the past 24 to 48 hours. And there's the cone of uncertainty from the National Hurricane Center right now, seeing maximum sustained winds at 40 miles per hour, and it does have a little bit of an engine with it as well as it's pressing to the west at 17 miles per hour currently is the forward speed. And it's going to remain a tropical storm until it reaches just to the north and east of Puerto Rico, as it's moving away from the Caribbean and into the western tropical Atlantic and eastern Bermuda. This will turn back into a hurricane as the waters are very warm out here. So we already have tropical storm watches posted, even some tropical storm warnings for portions of the Leeward Islands as expected. This is going to be moving in as we go into this weekend. You can see the main system off to the east with the central low pressure at a 1001 millibar low or thereabout as we go into this afternoon and this evening. Then as we go into Friday, we're going to see the rain bands moving across the Leeward Islands. Very heavy rain, some flooding, and even some stronger winds as well can be expected. There's tropical storm force winds, especially later on Friday and into Friday night. And then as it lifts to the north and east of Puerto Rico, this is really going to strengthen to at least a 988 millibar low, maybe even stronger than that, as it heads off into the open waters of the Atlantic this weekend over those very warm waters. Remember, hurricanes like warmer water, and that is what we see as we go toward this weekend and even early next week as well. Now let's take you back closer to home here across North America. Let's look at the weather pattern here, shall we? So seeing across the west, we have a ridge of high pressure across the western United States, across the Rockies, across the west coast, and to some extent across western Canada as well. A trough in the east. So we're seeing some cooler weather, generally speaking, around the Mississippi Valley, the Ohio Valley, and the southeast as we go through today. But then looking ahead to this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, the 21st, 22nd of October, the ridge is still off to the west. It gets a little bit dampened, which what that means is it starts to get a little bit flatter. We're not seeing a big amplification of the ridge like we see today. So it flattens out a little bit, and we see a strengthening trough. So while the ridge starts to weaken, the trough out east will actually start to strengthen this weekend, and that will directly impact our temperatures. This afternoon, you can see cooler fall-like temperatures from the upper Midwest through the Great Lakes and interior New England. Temperatures there will be into the 50s and 60s. A little bit of return flow on the eastern side of that ridge across the plains, especially from Kansas, Oklahoma down into Texas Hill Country, even down into Louisiana. Ongoing drought will also help us get into the mid 80s this afternoon down there. And then as we go into Friday, yes, we're back into the 90s. We go into Texas Hill Country and south central Texas toward the Rio Grande Valley as we go into Friday tomorrow. This is temperatures that could be approaching 94, 95, even 96 degrees in a spot or two from the Waco region down towards San Antonio, Corpus Christi, and even Brownsville, Texas as well. Meanwhile, we have the fall temperatures continuing across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and interior New England, more 50s and 60s there. Warmer out west with that ridge on Friday. But then looking ahead to this weekend, this is Saturday morning for you on October 21st. Looking at a first little bit of a cool spell with that strengthening trough out east, we're going to be seeing some frosty, maybe even some freeze conditions across the Great Lakes. Temperatures waking up on Saturday morning in the north woods of Wisconsin, up here into the UP of Michigan, northern lower Michigan. Yeah, we could be waking up into the upper 20s and low 30s for your Saturday morning. Frost up there, and then more widespread frost and freezes as we go into Sunday morning across portions of Michigan, Wisconsin, down into perhaps Indiana, Ohio, and interior New England here along the Appalachian chain. So we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of colder weather starting as we go into the morning hours of your Saturday and Sunday. And I do expect maybe the National Weather Services up here will be issuing frost advisories, freeze warnings, things of that nature as we get a little bit closer towards this weekend. And here's my frost and freeze confidence from now and especially into this weekend. We're talking Saturday morning and especially Sunday morning. It's much more likely up in the darker blue shaded color up here into the Midwest, the Great Lakes, the northern Ohio Valley, and interior New England. But it is still possible that gets a little bit further to the south. Places like Kansas, places like Missouri, Kentucky, northern Tennessee, getting into Virginia, West Virginia, even northern North Carolina could be seeing chances for some frost, at least in patchy areas, maybe not as widespread, but patchy as we go in towards this weekend. But things change again in a big way. Another big pattern swing as we go into next week, as we typically see in the fall months. We're going to see another rather significant storm system emerge toward middle and late portion of next week. And ahead of that, we're actually going to be seeing temperatures really start to warm up for this time of year. I mean, we're getting into late October, and when you're seeing above average temperatures, we're going to be seeing some pretty warm temperatures. And then we see below average up there into the Pacific Northwest, and where we see the battle zone going on in between the warmer and cooler weather, that's where that low pressure system will likely reside and track as we go toward later next week. And there we have it. We have above average precipitation across the middle of the country, the Great Lakes, the Mississippi Valley, and the Rocky Mountains. Very likely above average precipitation from Tuesday, October 24th next week through next weekend, at least going through Saturday, October 28th, and probably even through Halloween time frame as well, where the opposite side of the country, each side of the coastlines, the East Coast and the West Coast, will be near normal to at least slightly below average precipitation during that time frame. And look at this, folks. The reason why we're going to be warming up, look at the trough. It digs all the way down into the Baja of California, northwestern Mexico. This is pretty rare for this time of year, and that's going to force that ridge out east to amplify very strongly as we go later next week. And that these temperatures, folks, are going to be very warm for late October. So starting on Tuesday, October 24th, look at that. Around the mid-Missouri Valley, St. Louis, we're pushing 80 degrees as we go into Tuesday, mid 80s up there into Kansas, mid 80s perhaps around portions of Little Rock, down into Dallas as we go into Tuesday. Then as we go into Wednesday, much of the same 60s, 70s, and 80s across the board into the eastern United States. Cooler weather coming in from Canada, more fall-like air with 40s and 50s behind that system into the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, and even up into the upper Midwest at times on Wednesday. And then as we go into Thursday, that system really starts to get wound up. Very cold air on the backside could be producing some snow showers, possibly even a snowstorm across southern Canada, maybe parts of the northern Rockies later next week, where the warm side of the system will be watching out for some warmer temperatures, higher dew points, so it's going to feel a little bit more muggy out there, and we're going to be seeing some heavier rains and some thunderstorms as well. And looking at the pattern setup from around Wednesday the 25th through Friday the 27th, 28th time frame on Saturday even, we're going to be seeing rather healthy low pressure system developing in the middle of the country. Behind that system, we got a cold front. Cool, stable air from Canada is going to be pushing down across the Rockies there into the Great Plains. And then ahead of that system, we got the warm sector. Behind that warm front, warm, moist, and unstable air is going to be moving northbound. And this could reach all the way up into the upper Midwest and even southern Great Lakes region, at least for a couple of days later next week. So this will become a little bit more worrisome for not only heavy rain and thunderstorms, but possibly the threat for severe weather. So we'll continue to watch that as well. But overall, the potential rainfall accumulation, the middle to late portion of next week, we're eyeing up that Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday time frame. And you can see another healthy swath of rainfall as we go into that time frame. Some of the same areas that saw that very heavy rain just a week or so ago are going to be seeing another drenching with 1 to 3, even isolated 4, 5-inch rainfall amounts from Wisconsin down through northern Illinois, Michigan, all the way back through the Hawkeye State there into Iowa, northern Missouri, back into Kansas, Oklahoma, and even down at this time into the panhandle of Texas, West Texas, and then down into eastern New Mexico as well. Very dry though, from Florida up through Georgia, the Carolinas, Virginia, and even up toward New York City during next week. So it'll be rather dry for the east coast of the United States. Now the cold side of the system, we could be talking about snowfall, snowstorm activity from portions of northern and northwestern Ontario back through central and northern Manitoba, central portions of Saskatchewan, and getting back into southern Alberta. Even some Rocky Mountain snow out here into the state of Idaho there, into Montana, western Wyoming, down into the Colorado Rockies. Could be seeing a few inches of snow there. We'll be fine-tuning this as we get closer. But overall, next weekend, behind that system, that cold front's going to be a big player because once that warm air's out of the way, look at these temperatures. They're going to be tumbling down 20 degrees below average for this time of year as we get towards Saturday, October 28th. And even on Sunday, that cold front pushes further down to the south and east, making its way down toward the Gulf Coast and the southeast, and temperatures widespread from the central United States on east toward the east coast will be a handful of degrees below normal, likely many areas 10 to 20 degrees below normal by next Sunday on October 29th. And you can see that with the preview of next weekend's temperatures behind that cold front. Temperatures are going to be down into the 30s and 40s. Yes, these are potential high temperatures next Saturday on the 28th. Chicagoland area barely getting above 40, maybe just to 47 in St. Louis and 45 there in Indianapolis, maybe 35 for a high in Des Moines there by next Saturday. Waking up Sunday morning with those high temperatures, it's going to be even colder. We could be seeing our first widespread hard freeze across the upper Midwest with widespread temperatures down into the middle, even low 20s for lows as we get into Sunday morning next Sunday, and then only warming up into the 30s and 40s again, and this time much further south. Dallas only to 53, Shreveport to 56, and even Memphis and over toward Nashville only into the low 50s for highs by next Sunday afternoon. So let's look ahead, though, to early November and what to expect at least the first 10 days of the month here. That trough that we see in the wake of that storm system will be hanging around as we go into the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and the East Coast through the first 10 days of November. And then we're going to have equal chances of above or below normal temperatures into the middle of the country from the Midwest down through the Mid-South there. And then as we go into the Pacific Southwest and the Desert Southwest around the Four Corners region down into West Texas, we're likely seeing above normal temperatures in towards the first 10 days of November. And that's just to help with the drought as well. We got a lot of drought down here. Remember, drier ground heats up faster than warm ground, or than wetter ground rather. So that's what we're seeing. And then looking here at precipitation, looks below normal across the Northeast, equal chances across the Pacific Northwest and the upper Midwest of above or below normal, and then starting to turn more active. We've been waiting for this for quite some time. We've had a very significant drought down here, severe, extreme, and exceptional drought for Texas and the portions of the Gulf Coast. It looks like we're finally going to get above normal with our precipitation, at least as we get toward that second week of November. So we'll have to wait a couple more weeks for that, and that will start to improve our drought. You can see down here with these grays and whites, yeah, we're going to start to improve our drought. It's going to remain, but it's going to improve. So areas that are in extreme and exceptional drought right now may be more into more moderate or severe drought rather than extreme or exceptional as we get towards portions of November and even extending in towards December into winter as well. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to share this video with friends, family, and on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It definitely helps out more than you know, and I really do appreciate it. Give this video a like with the like button down below. It's the thumbs up button. It helps out more than you know, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their Thursday out there.